Welcome back. So today I think it's time that we need to have a little chat about light machine guns in Enlisted. It's been a great experiment. You tried really hard. You really tried. But it's time to admit that putting machine guns at BR2 was a mistake. They need to go down to BR1. But Drew, why do they need to go to BR1? Herder! Because a lot of the BR2 machine guns either are shit or they're really samey. And when you have things like mortars, anti-tank rifles, planes, tanks with flamethrowers, really, are you protecting anybody by not having machine guns at BR1? What's the benefit? I understand. Back when the merge happened, there was a vocal group of people that really wanted BR1 to be the BR for the bolt-action rifle. Well, I'm here to tell you that that initiative failed hard. Now, I like to create lineups in such a way that I have squads that are pre-set up for like BR5, BR4, BR3, whatever, right? I don't really like having to change the equipment on a given squad. So, personally, sometimes my lineups, especially at BR1 because I don't play it very often, will suffer because I bring less effective squads simply because I can't be fucked to change up my assault squad loadouts. Most of them are geared up for BR5 or BR2, but I have some for, BR3, BR4, whatever, right? So when I go into BR1, let's say as America, um, let me actually pull up a BR1 loadout. That'll be even better, because I do have presets saved. My BR1 loadup for the Americans is probably my most competitive BR1 lineup. You would expect to find lots of rifleman squads, engineer squads, radio operator squads at BR1, right? Like, it's the bolt action BR. Those are the bolt action classes. Snipers too, right? So, let's go through it. I have the Moroccan auxiliaries. They're a rifleman squad. They have pretty cool rifles. I have uh, the Australian or New Zealanders, regardless. I have the Commonwealth Commando Squad. They're snipers. They use bolties, pretty cool. I have a signal regiment. They use bolties. I have an engineer squad, and I have an anti-tank squad. All of them using bolties. But then I have the event Commonwealth squad with the Austin Mark 1. So we have an assault squad. We have the premium Sten squad, assault squad. We have the old school premium M3 field mod squad, so assault squad. We have the Hurricane plane, we have the Stuart with the flamethrower, and we have the LVT amphibious tank, right? And like I said, this is probably my most competitive BR1 lineup, and it's mostly because I have these event and premium assault squads at BR1. Most of my BR1 squads or lineups don't use um, assault squads just because they're already committed in other places and I really just don't want to change their guns. But that's the same reason why you're not seeing guerrillas here. Now, if we go and we look at Germany, I can tell you I have paratroopers there. If we go and look at Russia, my competitive version of my BR1 lineup is running 2 squads of paratroopers. And it's running a squad of guerrillas. And it's running an assault squad. My American one isn't super competitive, but it still has enough assault squads that I can rotate assault squads, and it's got a flamethrower tank. I can tell you that my German and my Russian lineups both also bring flamethrower tanks, because you can't bring flamethrowers at BR1 either. I can live with not having man-portable flamethrowers at BR1. It's fine. Not a huge loss. but they are very powerful. And they have machine guns built into the tank. And we have the I-153 with its rockets. Does very well against infantry. The point here is that BR1 is not this little safe space for bolties. If I really wanted to be hyper competitive, I could throw on 3 tech tree assault squads, plus I could throw on a guerrilla squad, and I can kit out everybody with anti-personnel mines, with all the best BR1 equipment, fully upgraded, whatever, right? And I can make a lineup very easily. Like, even if I wasn't a premium player, right? No premium squads, only having 3 infantry and a vehicle on the lineup, right? And, like, let's say we're playing America. I could bring 3 assault squads, because I can just bring the 3 tech tree assault squads, and I can have an AT soldier in all of them. I can have a radio operator in at least one of them, so I can call an artillery. And then I can bring the Flame Steward as my tank. And you're telling me that we shouldn't have Madsons at BR1 because it might hurt the bolties. I just don't agree with that. So, here's what I'm saying. Let's go across the board. Right now, for the Soviets at BR2, they have the Madsen machine gun, they have the Shaosha, and they have the Beretta, if you played in Stalingrad. Absolutely, the Madsen should be BR1. There's no excuse. It's a terrible gun. If you ever go and play Sanzo, you can run around with it in World War I, so there's more reason for it to be in BR1, but it does not belong in BR2. This does mean that the Russians will need a new machine gun in BR2, because I think that there's a compelling argument that when you look at the Germans, that the Beretta should also go down. The Shaosha is a premium squad. I don't really have, like, a major care whether they stay at BR2 or go to BR1. Generally speaking, I think the Shaosha's pretty bad, and it probably also should be BR1, but it's a premium squad, so if they keep it at BR2, I'm not going to really be that upset. But certainly the Madsen should go to BR1. If we look at the Americans, we have the Vickers birth year, we have the Bren 1 and the Bren 2. Vickers birth year can go to BR1, the Bren 1 and 2 can get foldered and stay at BR2. We can take any one of the bars and bring it down to BR2 and leave the other 2 bars in BR3, leave the Johnson in BR4, and then the 1919 A6 can tentatively stay at BR5, but it probably should go to BR4, and then a lighter weight 30 cal should come in for BR5, or some sort of experimental gun. The problem with American light machine guns is that their machine gun doctrine really hasn't changed, or like didn't change for a long time, until like, I guess we adopted the SAW. But like if you look at the like big 3 light machine guns from, I don't know, the last 100 years or so, you've got the 1919, you've got the M60, and you've got the M240. And what they all have in common is that they all are 30 cal calibers. 1919's 30-06, the other ones are 308s, but they all shoot between 600 and like 750 rounds a minute. So like, I'm sure that there's something that they can add at BR5 for America that will make people happier. But I just don't expect it to really be different. Just like a 1919 that's more mobile, basically. But regardless, they can keep it at BR5. I really don't have a horse in that game. I don't care. I care more about the lower end. Like, Vickers birth year is worse than the Bren, and they need something at BR1 to move the Vickers birth year down. It's not going to really make a difference. You could even put the Bren 1 at BR1, and I don't think it would make a fundamental difference, but I would like to see one of the bars move from BR3 down. Listening to, like, anecdotal accounts of the war from, like interviews with veterans, I'm actually surprised that statistically the bars are the way that they are in this game, because from their interviews, it sounds like they preferred the earlier models of the bar over the 1918 A2. So I wouldn't really be that upset if like the 1918 went to BR2 and then like the 1918 A1 got like a stat bump over the A2. But I don't really care too much there. I just would like to see one of them go down. Already, my paratroopers at BR2 reliably pull out 1918s, and I don't feel like they're breaking the game doing that. We just got the Thompson moved down, and I think you can make a pretty compelling argument that on average, the M1A1 Thompson is probably going to do more than a 1918 bar. I mean, first off, you can get 4 of them in a squad, 5 if you can get a medic and assaulters, but I think that's only like 1 squad. The Americans might not even have one, but I know that the Germans and the Russians do. You can only get 3 of the 1918s, and it does have a pretty substantial amount of recoil. Like, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Bump it down, people will be happy. Plus, America suffers, not because they have inadequate weapons, but because American players are kind of dumb. I say this as somebody who, plays a lot of America. It's just, playing America in Enlisted is like playing Germany in War Thunder. Moving on to Germany, I think we moved the Beretta Mod 30 from BR2 down to BR1. Now, like, it's a fine gun if you fire it one shot at a time, like with trigger discipline. But like firing it on full auto, if you don't have it bipoded, is not good. Not good. But the MG13 is good enough that I think I'd be okay with keeping the MG13 as their BR2 gun, making the Beretta Mod 30 their BR1 gun. I think the MG30, the premium squad, can probably stay at BR2 as well. It's basically an MG13. And then I think the rest of their guns are pretty much fine. I understand that they put the MG42-100 at BR5 because of its capacity. That being said, I actually don't think that it's really that good when you compare it to the MG81 or the MG15. I feel like I'm always going to pick one of those two over it. If it was BR4, though, I think I would take it more. I'm not saying that they should do this, but like theoretically, if they moved all of the MGs in the German tech tree down 1 BR except for the MG15 and the MG81, I would not be upset. Like, if the Beretta went to BR1, if the MG13 and the ZB26 were BR2, the MG34 can even be BR2 for all I care. I pull them out on my paratroopers at BR2 all the time. Take the MG34 Patron and Traumel and the MG42, bump them to BR3, then take the MG42-100, put it at BR4, and then leave the MG15 and the MG81 and leave them at BR5. Like, they could do that, and I'd be fine with that. I wouldn't really feel like I'm at a disadvantage to where the game currently is going into that. Again, I say this as somebody who plays a ton of America and Russia. I mean, I play all 3 of the European powers a lot. My lowest play number's on Japan, but the other ones I'm within, I think, like 50 games of each other. With America, I think, being my highest right now. Which is kind of odd, because I don't really like America as much. But some of my friends do. Anyway, I digress. The moral of the story here is, like, my first system that I laid out is probably the way that they should do it. But my second one, if they did it, I don't think the game would be worse for it. Moving on to Japan. Obviously, Japan moves the Type 11 down to BR1. Type 97 stays at BR2. Oh, God, dude, I wish you could take the scope off of that thing. If you could just rip the scope off, I would love that gun. The 96... if we move the bar down to BR2, we can move the 96 to BR2. If we don't, then the 96 can stay at BR3. And then the Key 7 can stay at BR3, and everything else is pretty much placed where it should be. Yeah, that's fine. I didn't look at the higher stuff for the Russians, but the DP-27's fine. It can be BR2 or BR3. Honestly, now that the DPM is BR3, I think you move the DP to BR2, you move the Madsen to BR1, you leave the DPM at BR3, the DT stays at BR4, and then the RD is BR5, and honestly, I don't care what they do with the Maxim Tokarev. Like, it's a neat gun, but if it was any other BR, I don't think I would complain. Like, it has the same thing going for it that the 1919 has, in that it's very stable. But I feel like its stability is a balancing factor that they gave it for being BR5. Same with the 1919. I think that if they gave them the recoil that they probably should have, which, let's be real, would be substantially more than what they have, they could be slotted into, like, BR3 and nobody would complain because all they'd have going for them is ammo. But in the way that they're currently implemented in the game, where they're crazy stable despite being massive, cumbersome machine guns that you realistically would not be, like, shouldering and running around with, like, they're fine at BR5, they're just really meh. Like, when they first announced the Maxim Tokarev, I honestly thought this was going to be, like, a low, like a BR3 machine gun, and then they were like, it's BR5, and it's like, man, like, I use them, they're fine, but if you gave it more recoil and just made it BR3, I think it'd be more fitting, since this thing looks like it crawled out of World War I. Anyway, I digress. Like, it can stay at BR5. It's fine. So, TLDR, after my long-winded ramble, machine guns should start at BR1, they should not start at BR2, and the rest of the machine gun BRs should adapt because of that. I don't think that machine guns are any more powerful than the tanks, the planes, and the SMGs that are spammed left, right, and center in BR1, and I don't think that the game is going to grossly suffer by having machine guns down there too, especially when low BR machine guns are incredibly unwieldy, and honestly are worse than BR1 submachine guns. As per usual, get out there, kick ass, take names, and win your games.